Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to this NAV Skills webinar. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are on the world, or of course, if you are watching this webinar recorded on YouTube. Today, very happy to have Gunnar Gestsson with us. Gunnar is going to explain us how he successfully published his app on AppSource. I think this is something which is on the top of a lot of people's minds. Before I give the floor to Gunnar, a couple of housekeeping things. As always, the webinars are recorded. You can go to our YouTube channel and watch the recorded webinars in the past. The webinars in the future are announced on our website, navskills.com/webinars. If you have any questions, please type them in the GoToMeeting questions window. I will be watching the questions window. If I have the idea that the question is urgent, I will stop Gunnar and see if we can get an answer immediately. Otherwise, I will keep them to the end. Of course, thanks to Liberty Grove Software for sponsoring these webinars. As always, we're looking for content and speakers. We are wrapping up, finalizing the October webinars right now, but we're always looking for interesting content for future webinars. I'd like to draw your attention to the webinar that we will have next Thursday. David Singleton will explain a brief history of NAV. We already got like a ton of questions from you based on the article that I published on LinkedIn, but we are still looking for questions. If you have questions like where does a certain piece of code come from, or what is the history behind a certain object or construct in NAV, send us your question and we will see if we can get it answered next Thursday. So with that, no further delay. Let's give the floor to Gunnar. And
excuse me, Mark. Just to clarify, next Thursday is actually this coming Thursday, the 14th.
It's exactly, Rick. Thank you. Yeah, it is this Thursday. It's in 2 days. Yes. Okay, Gunnar, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Mark. And good afternoon to everybody. Coming to you from Iceland. I'm gonna give you a brief overview of what I did in when I was creating the GL source names extension and publishing it to AppSource. All the details are available on my blog on the dynamics.is blog, and I will refer to some of the entries, blog entries, in my slides, and I suggest that you spend time to read it carefully and to understand what steps you need to do to get to your goal. Now, the solution that I created was quite a simple one, because what I was aiming at was to create a simple solution so that I wouldn't have to spend too much time doing the actual coding. But still a solution that could perhaps attract users and be useful for the community. Now, the agenda for today is to step through the steps or look at the steps we need to get our extension up to AppSource. The steps are laid out by Microsoft, and they are also clarified on my blog. So the first step for us is the ID, the information about what our app is supposed to do for the user. Now, the app can of course be a new app, or this can be an old solution that we already have. And our first step is always to go to the link here on the AppSource and tell Microsoft about the solution that we want to offer. And here we have information that we need to add about ourselves, about our company, and about the app that we want to create, and for which solution this is supposed to be. And for us, we are most likely doing an app for the business edition. Now, when we have published this information to Microsoft, they will take a few days to look at it, and they will send us back an Excel registration template where we need to put in more information about the app. Now, it's important to tell you that if you already have a solution registered as an ISV product, you still have to do this, and you still have to request a new object range in the 70 million range for your app. That is, you cannot use the same object numbers for your ISV solution and for your extension for Dynamics 365. Now, to be able to register an app, you need to be a registered partner for Microsoft. You need to be a partner which gives you a Microsoft Partner Network identification. You need to register yourself on the Partner Network. It is important that whenever you register yourself for the Partner Network and for the Business Solution Network, to always use the same Microsoft Live ID. Here you can register yourself on the Partner Network, and that is all done online, and you will receive your ID within minutes. The next step then is to register for the AppSource Business Center, what used to be called Voice. And this is the licensing portal for Microsoft. If you're not already a partner, you can request a partner registration agreement from one of these email addresses. You simply send them an email and request the template. You will receive a document that you need to print out. You need to sign it, and you might even need to use snail mail to send it to them. And this usually takes a few days or maybe a few weeks to complete. When that is done, you will have the AppSource Business Center account number, and you will be able to use your Live ID to log into AppSource Business Center, where you can get your development license, the license that will then be used when Microsoft adds the number range for your app to you for your use. Now, the final step in the registration part is to get access to the development center, and that's required to access the Cloud Partner Portal, where you will submit your app. And that is also used by using the Live ID. You register as an app developer, and here you might need to pay $99 to be a developer, registered developer, and that's a one-time fee. Now, if we look at the Excel document that we received, it should be right here. This is the Excel document that I received and I have completed for my solution. I need to give them information about the network, Partner Network ID, which you can see right here. That's my number here. The AppSource Business Center account number, which we received after signing the partner agreement, and this one is my number here, and then we can select with the number of objects that we need for our solution. And as I said, since my solution is pretty small, I only needed 50 objects. 50 objects says that you will get that 50 objects number range for all object types. 50 tables, 50 pages, 50 XML ports, and so on. The menu suite, of course, you need to use one of the 20 that is available from 1050 to 1079, I believe they are. This Excel file then will need to be sent via email to Microsoft, and they will then assign these number ranges to your development license. If you follow the link here to the Dynamics blog, I will show in more details what to do when I have received my numbering range. So the result here was that they added 50 objects to my AppSource business account. You see my number here as well. This is the range that I was assigned, and here I have a few slides to show us how I downloaded my license. And to confirm that this is the range that I have, this is from the license information, which I can download from the web right here. And I can then confirm that this is the range that I have in the license. Yes, Mark.
We have a question from Dave Mechanic. How do you make sure that the menu suite you are using is not used by somebody else?
You actually don't need to worry about that. The menu suite that you're using will most likely be used by someone else, but they are supposed to be merged together when they are imported into the service. So it is
something that Microsoft is doing, or?
Yes, you just have to pick one of those numbers and make sure that when you put your menu suite object into the extension, you want to have that as a Delta file, and then it will be merged into the Dynamics 365 application. So you can, to make sure that you have a Delta file of the menu suite, you can create a blank menu suite, and then just use that as a source when you want to create deltas for your menu suite.
Okay, so the menu suite that you're actually submitting is a Delta menu suite.
Yeah.
Okay. We also have a question from Gunnar Gestsson. Did you actually try to register as a person instead of a company for $19, or did you directly go to the $99 option?
I think I did go for the $99 options.
Okay, you're a big spender. You didn't try to get away with just $19.
No, I guess because the other two options that I need to fulfill the partner to be a partner, Microsoft partner, you need to be a company, not an
okay,
individual.
so the $19 really don't make sense for this kind of apps.
I don't think so. If it doesn't make sense, I think, but it might give you enough access to the portal to. Anyway, I didn't try that one.
Okay.
It would be nice if someone tried it.
So what happens if two partners submit exactly the same ID? Will you just end up with two apps that can do the same thing?
Most likely, yes. I don't see how Microsoft can deny you publishing an app which has similar functionality as something that's already been published or is in the channel.
Yeah, I think
it's same as with ISV.
Yeah.
Same as with ISV products, you cannot deny people of creating the same solution twice.
Yeah, I think I've already seen apps in AppSource that have like the same functional idea. So, yeah, okay.
Precisely.
Please continue.
All right, thanks. Yes, we now have our development license, so it's time to start building our application, building the app. And of course, we need to make sure that we have what I call here a service as a software or SaaS-friendly coding. And of course, we can refer to Mark Brummel's masterclass and a lot of blogs by our fellow MVPs and others about how you need to make sure that you are using events and you are not doing any modifications to the standard, which will break an extension being published to the AppSource. It is quite important to use the property which is called access by permission. This property is both on fields and actions and in many suites. And you want to make sure that even if your app is installed, you don't want to have it available until everything has been properly configured. You do not want the users to be able to get into your app and try to use it just to get errors. So by all means, try to utilize the access by permissions property and using that combined with the permission sets, and make sure that, as in my case, I used the assisted setup to help the one installing the app assigning the permission sets to the users. And if you combine these together, the assisted setup, the permission sets, and the access by permission, you can make sure that a user will not access your application when it hasn't been initialized or configured. So that's quite an important thing. Of course, SaaSifying a solution is something that you should just do by default. This should be the way you do things, not from now, but from yesterday. And please try to make sure that your solution is straightforward, easy to use, and use tooltips and instructional text on pages and reports just to help the user with whatever he wants to do. Having a tooltip for an action with explanation of what the action will do is the way that you bring help to the user. We are not publishing help files to a help server when we are publishing an app. Every help needs to be built into the solution. Also make sure that you have the application area property properly configured. The normal user in Dynamics 365 might be using the basic application area, which means that you need to make sure that you have basic all or suite application areas set correctly. Every table that you add to the solution with your app needs to have a permission set. You need to configure smart permission sets for the use of your extension. I myself, I did permission sets for usage, for setup, and for administration. There was 3 or 4 permission sets that I created for this really small extension. Also make sure that if you are somewhere in or the user is somewhere in the application and he is perhaps about to use your extension or he is seeing new fields or new actions for the first time, by all means give him a small notification. And here is an example of how I created the notifications for this app. So when you get into the GL entries for the first time, the user will be prompted with a notification. In this case here, the notification is that he this user does not have permissions to use GL source names and is suggested to contact the administrator. And there's always an action that you can do with notification, or there could be, which means that in this case, when the user clicks what should I show, I'm opening up a page in the application which is able to show YouTube videos. So instead of giving a help or readable help, I simply show the user a short video on what to do, what to suggest for in this example to the administrator. Or if we go a little further, you can see that here the user have access to the new feature, and I'm telling the user that there's a great new feature here, and he can click here, the user, just to see what the usage is for this new feature. And that will do the same. It will open the video page, the player page, and it will show the video for the user. So the user can easily see what he will gain by this new functionality. Now, as I mentioned before, the notification should only be shown once to each user. So there is a part of the design for the notification to create an entry in a table, either a table by the solution or the notification table in the application, to make sure that the user does not see this notification every time he opens the GL entries. Now, and here we can see the actual coding part of the solution. Now, the assisted setup is also a quite important part of an app. You might need to have just one assisted setup, or you might need to have more. It kind of depends on how complex your application is. Of course, you would like to have the assisted setup just work as the next finish, which makes everything automatic. And when I created my assisted setup, that's exactly how I did it.
Gunnar, maybe it's me, but I think we lost sound on you. Oh,
you lost sound
go.
on me. I am here.
I lost sound on you. Yeah. So maybe you should repeat the last 30 seconds.
Okay. I repeat the ones on the assisted setup. Yeah, it is quite important to have assisted setup for everything you need to configure in your application. In my application, I just needed, I really didn't need to configure any setup, but I needed to configure the permissions. So I wanted to build my assisted setup around assigning the permissions to the users. So from the assisted setup menu in the Role Center in Dynamics 365, the assisted setup is started right here. And as I said, and maybe you didn't hear, I always like to have a way to set defaults, which will automatically configure and install everything you need to start your app. And then you have the other option, which is to take things step by step and configure each step manually. Now, as we can see, if we read here, the main configuration we need to do for GL source name is to make sure that every user that can update the master cards needs also to be able to update the GL source name lookup table. And also every one that can read GL entries, he must be able to read the GL source name lookup table. So with code, I can simply look at the groups and users which have this access, and when I press set defaults, I can simply assign them my permission sets based on the access they have to the standard application. And the code to do this, of course, is included in the app, in the GL source name app, and you are welcome to use that one if you want to add this functionality to your extension. Of course, we need to create web pages. Every app needs to have a web page. You need to have a page where you can tell the user, or you can have a landing page where when you press install on your application, there is a link there to the information about the extension, and this needs to be a page where you catch the audience and in a few simple ways tell the audience what is special about your app. And you also need to have help videos, like I talked about before. Make sure that you have help videos for all the steps that a user might need to take in your app, and make sure that you give the user the possibility to view these videos within the application. Here is my landing page, which is the page that you will be directed to when you're installing the app, and you click the link button. And the first thing on the landing page is a video. So this video will simply show the user the gains from using or installing this application. So it will go through the scenario before installing the app and the same scenario after installing the app. So you should be able to see quite easily that installing the app will save you work, and that's what we are all looking for. Save the user manual work and therefore gain some revenues of our products. If we scroll down this side here, we can see that I have the other videos here also accessible. Video how to install, configure, and uninstall the application. The same thing how it works, which you could say is something for the architect or for the super user to look at, which is how things are done behind the scenes. And then the user story, which is how the user is supposed to use the application. And this user story, this is used by the evaluation team in Microsoft. So when you have published your app and they are evaluating it, they will look for the user story on how to test the functionality of your app. So make sure that you have a user story both in video and in document format. Of course, there's a lot more to marketing. You might want to sell your app, you might want to advertise your app. That's not something that I'm trying to do with GL source names. Who knows, maybe my next app will be on your Facebook ad or somewhere else. I forgot to mention this one here. You need to make sure that you have terms and conditions and privacy pages on your website, because you need to be able to when you install, click the terms and conditions and see on which conditions everyone is installing. You know that you can put almost anything you like in the terms and conditions, but Microsoft will most likely test it so that you will not making the user agree on something that they shouldn't be doing. Now that your app is ready, it's been coded, it's been published to your test setup and you have it ready for Microsoft, you go to the Cloud Partner website or the Cloud Partner portal. Now this is a change since I wrote the blog. It was, in my blog, it was Azure Publishing Portal, and in the Azure Publishing Portal we had
We lost the sound again, Gunnar.
Look at the Cloud Partner Portal. It's so much simpler for us, and everything in the Cloud Partner Portal is designed for publishing an app for Dynamics 365 for financials. And a few weeks ago, everything that had been created or published to the Azure Publishing Portal was migrated over to this site here. So I have my solution here, and I can see information about it, technical information, and things I need to upload, the extension package file, and so on. And you can see the status for the application here. You can see that each step can take minutes or days to complete. You see here, publish application with the service can take up to 6 weeks. And so this one is much simpler than the Azure Publishing Portal was. And as I showed in the slide, there is, there's a learn feature here where you can read the documentation and follow everything you need to do. The most complex thing when I was doing this Azure Publishing was that I needed to have a place to store the leads, which means that Microsoft will write into a CRM or Azure table or somewhere on where you can define the information on who is installing your app. And this is all explained in my blog, and it probably has the same requirements here in the Cloud Partner portal. So you will have a way to get information about which tenant has installed your application. It's still the same thing we had in the Azure Publishing Portal. There is no way to monetize your app in the Cloud Partner Portal. Everything you put in there can be installed by everyone. And you need to make sure, if you want to monetize your solution, to find some smart way to do that. We can talk about it a little bit after the presentation if we have time. Now, what's coming next? My GL source names is an extension version 1. And when I created that, I was using the old-fashioned CAL. But now from October 2017, we are supposed to publish only extensions version 2, which means that they are extensions created in Visual Studio Code with the AL extension. If you looked at the introduction Mark had, then he is doing a webinar about Visual Studio Code later this month, which I urge you to attend. If you want to try this out, you can click the Nav Development Preview link, which will take you into Azure, where you can create a machine, a virtual machine based on a template created by Microsoft. And when this machine is up and running, you will be able to try out the new development environment with the latest build from Microsoft. And please try this out if you have interests in stepping into the future. Now everyone can create a test subscription to Azure to do these things, and this is quite a nice service to work on. Still doing the wrong thing. Now the AL extension is being developed as we speak by Microsoft, and they are taking a new step in developing, where they are sharing the development phase with the users. And you can have the chance to go to GitHub. You have the chance there to look at the examples, the snippets that comes with the AL extension, and you can file issues if you have issues with using the extension. So if we click here, you can see the AL on GitHub. Of course, this is not the actual code for the AL extension, but this is mainly used for issues that user have. Here we can both request changes in the base application which need to be done for them to work with AL, and here we can also file issues with bugs and requests, and as you see, questions. There are, as you see now, over 660 issues, and most of them are being responded to quite frequently, either by Microsoft or by other users. So I urge you to go in here and see what's going on, and look at how you can participate in this project. Part of the project on getting code from CAL to AL is using a text to AL transformation tool, and this is also the place where you would like to file or issue a bug report about that tool. There's also another thing in the 2018 which is new. There's a property for every function in the CAL which states if the function is available from AL or not. That's an external or an internal function. So you can also request, as we can see here. Here there are 3 functions where someone is requesting that these functions could be made accessible by AL by making them external. And here Stanislav has accepted these, and these will be done in the next release. So this happens pretty fast now in Microsoft, and the response time is unbelievable on this side. Now there's another thing going also in GitHub. You probably have been using .NET capabilities of NAV, and if you are using .NET capabilities inside your functions, you can ask Microsoft to add these functions to the standard NAV and make them external and therefore usable by the AL language. The thing is that the AL language in Dynamics 365 will not support access to .NET. So if you need a function that is using .NET, you can submit that to the CAL Open Library, and Microsoft will review it and put it into.
We lost sound on you again, Gunnar.
Solution, it will be put into the next monthly update and shipped. Was there any question? Not there, Mark.
No, we just lost sound on you, but it was only for a fraction of a moment.
All right, all right. That's too bad. I can show you here an example that I just threw in a few functions that I wanted to have added to the solution. Here is, for example, a function where I want to just convert or read an XML file from a temp blob, a function where I can find the image type, which is all using, as you can see in the code here, it's using .NET variables. None of these functions can have .NET variables as parameters or return values, but inside them it's perfectly okay to use .NET. So we can expect that if these functions, for example, are approved by Microsoft, that they will be included in the next update. It is, for example, quite tough to do parse exact and the UTC time from the datetime in standard NAV code. So please also take a look at this one here. Look at your application and see what you're using .NET for. And if you're missing functionality in the standard application, .NET functionality that you have added to it, try to submit new functions in here, which will then be usable by everyone that's using NAV and Dynamics 365. Now for closing, all in good time, expect that this process will take several months. Of course, depending on how ready your application is for service as a software as a service, but this usually takes a few months to complete. If you're using your computer to record videos or take screenshots, you can add this parameter to the URL to start your web client with the Dynamics 365 shell. And it is important that every video and every slide or screenshot you do needs to have the Dynamics 365 layout, not NAV. So simply by adding this one to the end of your URL, your web client layout will change and be showing you with the Dynamics 365 shell. Of course, there is a sandbox available. You could install your own sandbox on your own machine by downloading the Dynamics 365 app and the tenant setup. And there's also a sandbox available in Azure, and you can request that after you have started your process. If you have started your process and are in the development phase, you can send an email to the Dynamics 365 evaluation for Microsoft and request a sandbox where you can do your coding, because the actual application that you will be coding against, the Dynamics 365 application, it's not the same application that you have on the 2017 cumulative update nor on the 2018 CTP. So if you really want to make sure that your solution is working for Dynamics 365, I suggest that you shoot them an email and request a sandbox either locally or in Azure for your use. Now, there's a project in GitHub that I have created, which is called Advania Git. This is the source control management system. And it has a lot of tools. And these tools here can help you creating your extension, help you in publishing it to your local server to sign it with your certificate. And it can also help you in your process to converting the CAL to AL. So this tool is a PowerShell tool, and by all means look at it and try it. And if it can save you some work, then you can, you're welcome to use it. It also has support. Sorry.
We already discussed that we should do a session on the tool, and I talked with Camille to say that we should first do a Git 101, and then we can go into more advanced Git sessions.
Yeah, we need that. That is true.
Yeah. So you can expect those sessions in October and November.
That's excellent. And the final point there is that we can now, in this tool, support development with VS Code and AL extension that's using Docker containers. And Docker containers is a nano server which will be running on your laptop, which can contain the latest development environment, the same one that is available here in the development preview. So please try to use these things to save your time and money. And also there's a place here to file issues as well, which hopefully I will see more than 0 somewhere in the future. It's quite good to not have any issues, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And then finally, I can show you a branch here on GitHub, which is called GL source names. Here is everything about the GL source names. Here I have the deltas, which is the code. I have the documentation, I have the extension itself, screenshots, permission sets, and so on. So inside the deltas here, you can see all the delta files that were created. This is the solution with the assisted setup, with the notifications, and with everything.
Yeah, and I personally want to say that this is extremely valuable. I mean, the story behind creating this extension, actually, I was Gunnar's guests in Iceland, right? I was in Iceland to do a training, and Gunnar and I were just talking about everything that you have to do as a nav partner to create an app for AppSource, the videos, the security, the wizards, the notifications. Like, wow, there's so much stuff that you have to do in order to publish something. And I mean, this is an app that adds a field to a page, right? That's the technical part, and everything else is just something that for most of the NAV partners are just completely unknown. So this is just a great resource that will save you a lot of time. And if you talk to Microsoft and you ask Microsoft, like, what is the main reason that apps are not submitted and apps are not published on AppSource, and it's the most frequently used reason for Microsoft not to publish apps is because they are not user-friendly enough, there's no videos, there's no landing page, and those are just skills that a lot of NAV partners don't have. We know how to program in AL, but we don't know how to make landing pages and wizards, right?
That is true. And here is a quite good example of this app. This app really needs 1 or 2 pages, 1 table, and perhaps some code, but we can see that there's quite a number of objects here in the Git repository, and most of these objects are designed to make the app more friendly, more easier to use, to make sure that there is a notification and assist setup and so on.
Yeah.
And so that took, of course, more time for us, for me, to create the solution support architecture than the solution itself.
Yep.
Now, as I said, the email address there, that's your friend in need. Whenever you have some questions in your process, email them. They have staff online, and they are quite responsive.
So you're skipping a bullet point there. Figure your own way for billing. I think that's another most frequently discussed topic when you talk about AppSource.
Yeah.
How do you get money? I know, Gunnar, that you're a nice guy and you don't care about money, but some companies do. And any suggestions there?
Perhaps I can perhaps tell you how I would do it if I were publishing an app right now.
Mm-hmm.
I would use product keys. And
Yeah,
I would use I would use some kind of an encryption process, which so that I can sell the product keys online.
Yeah.
For example, on sellfy.com, I can sell a product key, and that product key will give you a year subscription for one company or something like that. And when you put that product key into your assisted setup, that will activate the solution.
Oh.
The technical part of it is a little more complex, but the high level is that I would do it like that. I would probably be able to have things automated like that. You might want to add a registration.
Didn't you program something like that for Pair a couple of years ago?
Yeah, I did. That requires that you are talking to a service that Pair hosts, and that will do the same thing. That way, Pair has the knowledge of who is using his app, and he can, of course, easily then deactivate the product keys if he wants to do that. If you sell a product key that's going to be valid for a year, then you cannot. You have. If for my view, you would not be able to disable that product key. So if that one went public and you needed to do something about it, you would probably need to update your app and do some coding to lock out that product key.
And of course, update your app will take a couple of weeks for it to update.
Yeah, exactly. Even if you don't do anything else but to update the way that you handle the licensing part or the registration, you could, of course, add the registration to the setup so that you would at least receive an email of telling you that this one has used this product key to enable your app.
Yeah. So we have a related question from Simona Rosa, and I think after that we can go into the questions in general. But there is no payment process in AppSource, right? You have to make it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. There is no payment process, and to my best knowledge, Microsoft is not
Gunnar.
Yeah, exactly. From my best knowledge, Microsoft is not even trying to do that part.
Okay. Do you want to go into Q&A, Gunnar?
Yeah, I think so. That's my final slide here. This is just the AppSource screenshot of this app, and as you can see here, that this is a simple explanation of what the app does, and then there's just videos.
So how many people have installed and downloaded your app? How many leads did you get in your system?
Yeah, I was afraid this question was going to come. I haven't checked.
You haven't checked.
It's stored in an Azure table somewhere in my account. I haven't even checked it. Okay. I have no idea. It might be 0, it might be 100.
Okay, well, at least you have one fan, because Gunnar Gestsson is saying that he installed it, so he should be on your list somewhere. I know that you can connect it also to your CRM system. So if you have Dynamic CRM, which as a nav partner I think you should have yourself, you can connect your CRM system to AppSource, and then you will get your leads into Dynamic CRM, and then you can start a sales process. But of course, the reason for this app was more educational than anything else.
Yeah, true.
So Dimitri is also asking, can you explain a little bit more in detail what the difference is between a permission set and access by permission, and how does a permission set, what does it look like, and how do you include it in your NavX file? I mean, it's still a NavX file, right? When did it
still a NavX file? Yeah. The access by permission property is always pointing to a table, and so it's always going to ask or check if the user has access to that table. You can define if it's enough to have read access, or if the user requires insert or modify access. But you always have to have a table, and if the user has access to it, then the action or the field will be displayed to the user.
And if you install the app, the permission sets are not yet created, so you don't see it yet. That's kind of the secret.
Yeah, you haven't assigned the permission sets which give the user access to the tables. You haven't assigned it to the user at the install time.
Yeah.
So that it will only be the super user that has access to all the actions without the assignment of permission sets.
Yeah, and it kind of prevents people from by accident clicking on something which is not properly set up.
Exactly.
Okay. Does Microsoft have any default terms and conditions that you can just copy paste without having the risk of a big lawsuit with some of the customers on AppSource? Is there anything default? What did you use?
Yeah, I used theirs for some methods at least. We've simplified it. I think we can. I think I should be able to display what it is. I think I have just in the objects for nav, if I remember correctly. I think this is copied from somewhere in most parts. And of course, if anyone wants to use this one, feel free to copy it. And this is a standard terms and conditions I have here.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you can also, GitHub also provides a whole bunch of standard legal terms that maybe you can actually look at.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have a question from Gil, and I hope I understand the question correctly. But what do you do if you want to create an extension and you want to subscribe to something that happens in an AV and the event is not there? How do you request new events?
You do that now. You do that now through the GitHub, the AL project on GitHub.
Okay.
So you can request new events from there right now.
And those events are quickly added, like within a month, or?
Yeah, it usually is there in the next build.
Okay.
It's so much better to have this way now to speak to Microsoft. So yeah, use the issues on the AL project, which is, well.
Then we have a question from Lars Westman, and I hope that I get the question correct. Can you use a solution coded with AL also on-prem, using the same object IDs?
No, you cannot use the same object IDs. You need to renumber
renumber it, and you can use Freddy's renumbering tool, of course.
Yeah, you can use. You already did some sessions about the renumbering. Freddy has a tool. Mert's tool has a tool. I have a tool on my blog as well. So use the tool that you feel most comfortable with. Freddy's tool probably is the most capable one. It's also proposed to renumber permission sets, for example.
Yep.
You just create your extension and you direct the tool to your extensions folder and the resource folder for your extension.
Yeah. And then, of course, Dave Mechanic is asking a very good question. Do you have any idea how many paying customers there are currently on Dynamics 365? I have no idea.
I don't think anyone has this information outside Microsoft. I don't think they do.
And even if the information was there, they wouldn't tell us.
Yeah, exactly. So there was a question here about the permission sets and how they are being added to
someone the extension. Here, Dmitry Gestsson is saying anywhere between 800 and 1,000. That's what his guess is.
Okay.
So
that's true. There is a PowerShell command that will export permission sets from the application.
Okay.
It's going to create the XML files, and you simply drop these XML files into the resource folder you are using when you create the extension.
Okay.
So, and it looks something like this. There's also an export function for table data and for web services, which then of course creates an XML file, and you throw it into the resource folder when you build the extension. All right.
So the setup wizard, the assisted setup wizard, and videos, are they all mandatory components? I mean, do you get approved for AppSource without assisted setup or videos?
If you need any kind of a setup for your application, you are required to do an assisted setup.
Okay.
I don't think they will accept the if they have problems using your extension. Of course, the evaluation team will install the extension and try to use it. And if they can't figure out how to use it with what you deliver, they are not going to approve it.
Yeah, which makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
If they can't figure it out, then the user will not be able to figure it out.
Exactly.
Okay, I think we're on the top of the hour and we answered the questions. I would like to take the opportunity to thank Gunnar for his time and for all of the time that you have put into this project. I mean, I've been following it step by step, and it's just I think it's a humongous resource for anyone who wants to go into AppSource. And I hope that maybe early next year we can do a follow-up webinar if you converted your app to extensions v2, and maybe share some of the knowledge that you gained doing that.
Yes, of course. I will convert this to AL. I have already tried it. I have seen a few roadblocks, and I have filed them as issues on GitHub. So they will fix those things. I think that I will be ready to go when I get the October release of AL.
Good.
So I'm expecting that I will do the transformation to extension v2 in October and do a blog about that as well.
And if you're a fan of Gunnar, you can come to NAVOG Summit in Nashville in October, and you can get his autograph. So anywhere you want.
Yeah, there will be a book signing, right?
Exactly. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Gunnar, and thanks anyone for attending the webinar, and hopefully see you this Thursday when we dive into the history of NAV.
Thank you, and have a nice day.